Welcome back. You're listening to another episode of the What is Humans podcast with Shane Strunk and Dennis Kluba. Make sure to follow us on our social media pages, on Instagram at What is Humans Podcast, on TikTok at What is Humans Podcast, and on YouTube at What is Humans Podcast. Today, Shane and I are discussing Give It Forward. Enjoy.
Ooh la la, ah wee wee. 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 Ooh la la. Looking for amps.
Hey, welcome back here on the What is Humans podcast. If you're new to the podcast, this podcast is conversations and personal development where my co-host Dennis and myself, Shane, discuss meaningful conversations about everyday life. And hopefully through having these conversations, you can gain some value in them too.
Yep.
And most importantly, we are
Experts in almost nothing.
What's up, dude?
Hey, nothing much, man. Flew in about a couple hours ago and jumped right into the seats, and here we are.
Yeah, man. We're not breaking this streak
No.
just yet. So
No, not yet, and we don't plan on it either. Thanks for being flexible. But I think that, we have, and I think that the good part about what we're trying to do and build in the future is a lot of what we're going to talk about today, which is telling more stories and sharing those ones that we have of ourselves. And that's really what giving it forward and what we're talking about today is, right?
yeah, definitely. I think it can go a couple different ways. I think that give it forward, like specifically like within your own stories.
Yeah.
How you have to make your own story in life. You need to share your experiences from your past, and there's knowledge to be gained, from that. And there's also the other side of it of there's people that have walked this path before you that you should study. You should question. You should not make the same mistake.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a twofold.
Yeah.
And like how you give it forward, and maybe you're on the receiving end of that too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think the biggest thing that we can be in agreement with is the opposite of the message that we have today, whatever direction that goes in, is not sharing your own story. Because number one, the people that could use and learn from your experience won't be able to do that. And you might not be able to have the life that you want to have by keeping your curiosity, your experiences, your knowledge inside of just your own mind.
So not just like the things that maybe you offer, but also what about the struggles you're going through?
Yeah.
What about the problem you're trying to solve? What happens if you keep that inside and you aren't sharing that, with a peer out in the world?
I think it just leads to internal struggle, which we all go through in different degrees, but the ability to share that burden with others and almost delegate some of that emotional pain and, burden that you're taking on allows you to have a more fulfilled life. And the minute that we think that we either have to do everything ourselves or bottle everything up is when things seem to go the most wrong, I feel like.
So the emotional burden for sure.
Yeah.
But you also won't be getting any help,
Yeah.
If you don't vocalize it. If you keep things in, if you don't say that it's a problem or don't say that you're struggling in this area,
Yeah.
how is anyone supposed to know
Yeah.
you're in need of help? That someone might already have the answer, might have already done this, might be able to support you in some capacity, like that emotional burden piece. But you have to put out your own story of exactly where you are.
Yeah.
If it is struggle, or if it is, hey, I have some knowledge to give in this subject.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing and we talked about this a little last week, so I think it's a good segue, which is we talked about asking questions and, curiosity winning. And in this case as well, I think that the biggest fear of sharing and telling stories and experiences is people will laugh at us. People will not find it valuable or ask, well, you're so young, what would you have to share? And it's almost interesting when I've looked at like creators in past, and a lot of what they say is, look at what you're doing now. What's something you wish you could have told yourself 4 or 5 years ago, all of us have 3 lessons that we could give. And by the time that you're even, 5 years old, there's 4 years worth of people that know less than you do probably in that moment. And the same goes for, we all grow and we mature and we, become successful in our careers at different points. People can learn from the experiences that you've had at whatever time you are in life. But we get so in our heads that, oh, what do I have to share or give to the world?
Yeah. I think we think that we have no value to give, so we don't bother sharing it.
Yeah.
Or it's the other case of, we think that our information or people are consuming only us.
Yeah.
And we have so much fear over how it might look,
Yeah.
who might see it, whatever external thing
Yeah.
might be, when really everyone is just worried about themselves typically.
Yeah.
So it's just like breaking down the fear to begin. You have to remind yourself, you just have to you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
But you also got to be selfish in, hey, I do have value to bring.
Yeah.
I have my own unique experience that no one else has.
Yeah.
Because it's my own.
Yeah.
And each person has that. So that's kind of like why it's so important to bring your own individual story,
Yeah.
good, bad, or ugly, to the world.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think that for me personally, the reason that a lot of times I feel like I have a bad, or, I get nervous about sharing in a public setting or anything like that, is a lot of times I think about like, well, I haven't done that much in my life that people would want to listen or anything like that. But then I thought to myself a little bit about a lot of the things that I could learn from or share is a lot of the failures that I've had. And I was thinking about how, anybody can put it on their resume or come to you and say, I've done this, this, and this. I feel at that time we want to listen less. The thing that is almost more captivating and more able to learn from is the things that you've messed up or when you feel inadequate. And so it's like, hey, just so you know, this is what I would have done different than I did. Instead of being like, hey, I won this tournament. Here's that story.
Yeah.
Instead, or you could be like, hey, like, it could have been a lot easier for me. Let me tell you, because I went the long way around, let me tell you how to get there quicker.
Yeah.
And so it's talking more about these experiences. So if you feel like you haven't achieved a lot, it's more important to share, hey, this is what doesn't work so far, and people find value in that.
It's so true. It's like it's so like rooted like in stoicism of like what we talk about. It's just like every struggle or every hurdle, like it's lessons that we can be gained, you know, opportunities that can be fruitful for us. So it's like your example of like the time where you might have felt adequate. You didn't think you were enough, or it's a job that you took, to pay the bills and you were doing, something else. Or it's maybe you figured out you weren't meant to be in this career or in this relationship or whatever that is. So it's look at whatever experience you have as lessons, that can move you forward.
You have to share.
Yeah.
And I think too, from an inadequacy standpoint, a lot of times the reason that we don't share when we are having those emotional struggles or, things like that is we feel that maybe other people aren't going through that. I'm the only one that's struggling with depression, or I'm the only one that can't figure out why I don't love the job that I have, or, I'm not really fulfilled, and is that okay? And that's like the complete opposite, right, of what exists in the world. So, like, if you feel that, I'm guarantee there's other people out there that feel the same way. But we just become so, you said it before, consumed with ourselves that we're like, well, I have to be the only one that feels like this.
Yeah.
It's probably not the case.
We think we're the only, but we also like are so afraid to bring that voice. To go find that common community. In shared experiences.
And I think that what we know in history is the things that last and the things that are the most valuable are stories. They are experiences that are shared.
Yeah.
Whether that's, hey, you're going back with your high school, your college friends. What do you guys do for the most part? You talk about stories from things you did when you were kids.
Sure.
Or the most meaningful conversations, right, is you call up your mom or dad, or you call up, you're going to call your kids one day, and you hope that they have the ability to tell you if things aren't going well. And you want to instill that in them that, hey, it's good to share and to talk about things and to be open with success, but also failure and emotions. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about today is by giving more of ourselves and our experiences, we're moving the ball forward instead of just playing small and being, within ourselves.
I love that. So maybe how can we go about in our own lives? Tell more stories.
Yeah.
If it is uncomfortable,
Yeah.
moments in your life, or it's the successes and teaching moments maybe that you can give to another.
Yeah.
How can you go about maybe doing that?
I think the biggest thing and what a lot of people feel is that they feel like they don't have stories to tell. Well, what would anybody want to hear from me, right? And we talk about this a lot from David Goggins, which is a lot of times successes, which, the cookie jar. But it's almost like we say, if we want to start and do an introspection, look at ourselves, say, okay, maybe I'm not an X Games winner or a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Yeah.
But the things that I've done are pretty cool. And even if they're not, I've bumped myself along the way and I've stumbled to get to where I'm at.
Yeah. Look at the small awards or accomplishments, or it's the, hey, this tragic thing happened and I've gotten through it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be a positive thing.
No.
It's got to be an event where you struggled and you've overcome something.
Yeah. Or being open and saying, hey, I'm struggling with this right now. Maybe there's other people out there that are like me.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the second one I wanted to bring up was really how we just kind of like bring our guard down a bit of like, we can't be afraid to speak our mind or to share these stories. And I'm trying to think of a good tool for us, other than that, like, if you don't speak it, there will be no, you won't be getting that help from another.
Yeah.
Just think of, how fast you can accomplish something, on a team. So it's find a friend, find a partner, a teammate, a peer, someone going through a similar struggle or someone that you respect, and don't be afraid to raise your hand in class or ask the dumb question or be vulnerable, because they probably are going to be able to help you, through that time.
Yeah, and I think really importantly off of what you said there is the best way that we move the ball forward in society and life, getting through struggles, is sharing those stories and then somebody else listening or you listening to other people's, right? And everything that you've consumed and you've known up to this point was a story or a finding or an experiment that somebody talked to somebody else and was like, hey, does this make sense? It may or may not have at the time, right?
Sure.
But, if it was math or science or maybe it was a story, book, it's like, oh, somebody just told somebody and they're like, that's I resonate with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what, you got to move it forward by sharing and taking your guard down.
Right.
I think finally, which I alluded to a little bit there, which is equally as important as sharing, is listening. And to be a great storyteller, to be a great sharer of our emotions and opening up, is also part of that equation is knowing when other people may need to say things, or you can learn from other people the same way that they can learn from you. And they're one and the same of, you got to give more of yourself, but you also have to take in what that other person's saying in order to learn from them and help them through the tough times that they're going through.
Yeah. There's just something so beneficial to helping someone, achieve their goals or help them through, a difficult time or through successes.
Yeah.
That it probably inspires within you,
Yeah.
Your best.
Yeah.
Because you have to show up for them at your best
Yeah.
in order for you to help them. So it's just a reminder, like, it kind of makes you, it makes you show up.
Yeah.
So remember how important, relationships are in your life.
Yeah.
Because it makes you become your best.
Yeah, completely. Why are we talking about this today?
I thought this was a good reminder for us. You brought this topic to me, but like giving it forward, I think originally we were thinking of like, okay, teaching, like sharing of our own ideas and experiences, but at the same time of like, there's things we're trying to do or anyone is trying to do or any struggles that they might be going through. But we have to speak our mind. We have to speak our stories. We have to seek help, if we want to get through anything.
Yeah.
So that was just a reminder for me.
Yeah. I think I was just marinating on this idea and topic about how important storytelling is to us in society, and not only for later generations, but also for ourselves to help us remain entertained and also educated and help us pour out our emotions, and I think that so often, I was thinking about this, I was actually talking to my grandma, is there's so many stories that are untold that people, they go their whole life and they don't tell you the whole story.
Sure.
They don't tell you the whole thing. And now in our society and in our, era of technology, we all really do have the capability. If you didn't feel like you were a great writer, you can speak it. You can get in front of the camera. Everyone has a camera now on their phone. And I think it's so important that we do document and we do tell these stories of our families and ourselves so that we can learn. And even if nobody watches it, if one person listens and says, oh, that's a cool story.
Yeah. Or if it's just for you.
Just for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's worth it.
Let's do a quick recap. So today we talked about give it forward. Really this idea of, which was kind of twofold, of giving and sharing of your own unique experience, whether that's good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah.
Or it's the listening approach of, hey, you're going through something, or hey, you have a goal you're trying to achieve. How important it is to listen and seek a peer or an accountability partner or a friend, for that thing.
Yeah.
So it's the listening and the speaking.
Yeah, completely. Then we got into the hows, and the first step that we kind of talked about was looking and examining your own life and recognizing that you do have things to speak about, to talk about, whether they're failures, successes, and how you could help somebody somewhere along the way in their own path.
Yeah, by sharing that story. The second one was really just to how important it is to put your guard down.
Yeah.
You have to speak your mind, speak your experience. If it is something, a goal you have, an aspiration, a struggle you have, it's so easier to get somewhere with the help of another versus trying to do it on your own. And if you never speak it, you'll never get that help.
Yeah, completely. And then the third one was really about the listening piece of the puzzle, which is to be a great speaker, to be somebody that tells great stories, you also have to be willing to accept and understand other people's stories in return. And that will in turn help you to
become your best.
Yeah. And give it forward.
Yeah. Then we got into our whys. My why was just a reminder of how important story is.
Yeah.
How important it, relationships are when it comes to a goal or a dream or, just life, life struggles. And you have to have these stories and share these experiences, if you want to make the most out of it.
Yeah. And then my why, which is kind of funny, it was really inspired by a conversation I had with my grandma about people that just don't tell these stories when they should. And we all now have the capability, and that's why there should be more learning from each other than ever right now.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And I think that wraps another week of
What is Humans.
Thanks, guys.